I've got to manage myself, I've got to manage my mind. The task is not easy, but to high heights I climb.
I'm determined to succeed, so no excuses, please. If you don't want success in life, then don't hinder me. Yes, let the whole world know you are a CEO. You are a CEO. I'm a CEO. You are a CEO. I'm a CEO. The time is here to celebrate. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. Yes, let the whole world know. The time is here to celebrate. Success is calling, so don't be late. You are a CEO.
Hello, everyone. Michael E. Parker here, ready for another exciting show here on CEO TV. And you all know I'm in a series right now called The Mystery Guest. And I haven't been telling y'all who's coming in. And again, tonight, the mystery is going to be revealed for this particular show. Now, it was back in August, I believe, of 2020, right in the midst, in the heart of the pandemic. I had a wonderful guest, and we got into an inspiring discussion. And I mean, everybody was buzzing about it afterwards because we were all in the thick of the pandemic and trying to figure things out, trying to understand what was happening and what was already on the move and what might come next. And so let me introduce the show to you. Let me pull the slides back up there. This particular show, if you all remember, it was called A Workplace Divided. And this is going to be part 2 tonight with Cory Hanes, a good friend. We go all the way back as far as you can go. And Cory, I just want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here, Mr. Parker. This is an incredible show. I love hanging out with you. And Michael, you're doing great things. So let's talk about it.
Well, listen, don't put it all on me. I think you're doing great things over there. And I just, listen, I'm just so happy, you know, We've been friends almost from birth, and to see, us together again, surviving. One thing that, we had came through a lot together, going through grade school and so many different things, but we never came through a pandemic together before.
Not quite. Not quite. This has been amazing. I mean, it's incredible that we're both still here.
Yeah.
But it's good to talk to you, and I'd love to. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, well, okay, speaking of keeping talking, before we get into, because I want to pull a lot out of you because you always have so much to give when we can sit down like this. But tell me a little bit just about, making it through the pandemic on a personal level. I mean, the family, the kids, how are you doing? How did you make it?
Yeah.
So far, I should say.
So far. I haven't made it all the way, but I think we're here. So, I mean, think about it. Like, it was a year ago, we were all not even wearing masks, right? We thought we just wash hands.
Yeah.
And we went in there, then we found out we got to wear masks.
Yeah.
And then all these people just, getting sick and dying. I mean, it was an incredible change of life. Working from home, kids at home.
Yeah.
Then you have the nice conversations with everybody at home, right?
Absolutely.
Bandwidth issues.
Yeah.
Food shortages, toilet paper shortages.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an incredible time.
Yeah.
And very much devastating to a lot of us. But I'll tell you this one thing that kept us going is the ability to really focus, have faith through the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now it's interesting because you're still in that shell shock, right?
Right.
Like they're saying, let go of mask, and I'm like, I can't let go of my mask, right?
Exactly,
so I got fully vaccinated.
There's been a relationship with it.
Yeah, I got a relationship with my mask.
Yeah.
I got one for Monday, Tuesday, with color coordinating and everything, right? Got to coordinate. So the whole thing has just been amazing. But I think one of the things that I've really seen through this whole thing is that it's so important to know the people you're with, because at the end of the day, that's all you got.
Yeah.
That's all you have, and your health, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you have, because everything else you start to see, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, it really puts things in perspective when something like this comes about. You start really realizing the things you really love, the things you really care about, the things that really matter. And you start thinking about, friendships and community and connectedness. And so No, I think that's very well said. And so I want to go deeper, though, now into picking up the last time you were here.
Sure.
We talked about a workplace divided.
Yep.
And you shared just so many riveting, thought-provoking things that, I think made everyone who watched that show just think deeper about just the place we were, kind of that inflection point we were at. Mm-hmm. Well, now, here we are, almost a year removed.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about where you feel we are right now. So now being here and looking back from, August 2020, where are we?
Yeah, that's a good question. So maybe we'll start from kind of painting the picture, right? That it's amazing where the economy has gone, right? So let's start there because I think that's usually a big driver. So, the pandemic had the economy crash to almost nothing, right? We've now, since March 20th, have a 75% increase in the stock market itself. So if you put $1 in the market, back then in March 2020, you'd have, increased 75%.
Right. But now that's coming up from
the lows,
basement,
from
right?
the lows,
Okay,
from
right,
the
right,
lows.
okay.
But with that, you've seen the ability for companies to still continue to grow and hire that were basically able to have employees work from home. They were still growing. You take the Zoom companies, you take the cloud-based companies,
Sure.
all these companies that had workers that could work remotely and had software that enabled that continued to grow. Mm-hmm. And that's been amazing because what happened is there was another part of the economy, the service industry, that crashed, right? So airlines, travel, all of that just went down 40, 50%. People were shutting down planes. People were shutting down restaurants. The PPP loans had 3 tranches of the loans, total about, I guess, about $6 trillion that went out to help small businesses recover. Right. 56% of those small businesses all shut down. So even people that were getting the money couldn't even survive. So here we are now post-pandemic per se.
Right.
But you still have this growth factor with certain groups, and you still have another group that's going to be unequal. And let me give you an example. And this is a really telling story. During the whole process, they asked the banks, the feds asked the banks to give people forbearance. In other words, they didn't have to pay their mortgage, right?
Right.
Give you time to catch up because we knew this was big.
Right.
Everybody,
and no evictions, too.
And no evictions, too.
Right,
and everybody learned from the 2008 crash when money meant to Wall Street, let's put the money to Main Street. So that was the theme. Give as much as you can, be as liquid as you can. What was interesting, though, and this was a really kind of a really telling story, and it's happening right now, is that most of the forbearance, about 33% of the forbearance that were taken were minorities that take it. Now, the dilemma there is that home ownership in minorities is about 20%. So a small number own homes that are minorities, especially Black, Hispanic.
Right.
But a larger group were having to take forbearance.
Right.
The problem is now that most of the people who got forbearance has stopped, right? They start paying their loans back.
Right.
But now they're saying about 50% of those people who haven't paid back are still minorities, and they think they're going to default.
Wow.
So what we're going to probably see is 2008 again, with the minority groups that were in homes but couldn't get jobs that could sustain them.
Sustain it, right.
To sustain the mortgage, because the jobs they probably had were mostly in the service sector.
Right.
And we know that to be true because most of the people that were dying during COVID, it was 3 times higher for minorities.
Right. Because of the types of jobs that they were working on. So you could
together.
literally have a situation where you have a financial breakdown of 2008 in a sub-market of the entire market or in a sub-demographic of the entire human demographic.
That's right.
So that's what you're really saying is that if we need to really pay attention is there could be kind of this silent economic killer that's lurking in the shadows now because there's something that, was meant to help. If you didn't have the sustaining force of a good job behind that help, it still ends up where you would have been without the help.
There you go. And there you go. And the shadow is that the market is continuing to climb, hit another 300 points a day. So everybody thinks it's going well. But there's this group behind that's waiting to fall back. And once those banks say we got to collect, once those credit cards say we got to collect, there's going to be a huge spike in defaults. And here we go right back again.
Yeah.
And all that wealth, because wealth is really built in home ownership, starts to go away again.
Right. So what do you think in terms of, it's a tough question, but what are the options, for people that, a lot of, some of those individuals also were small business owners and some of them even, owned some of the companies. They had to get the PPP loans and the support. And now they're realizing that they're still not where they need to be. both with the mortgage at home and even the loan in the business. What do you think some things that they should be thinking about? I mean, what would you tell someone in that dilemma today?
Well, I think there's some new opportunities, right? As it's cliche, but one door closes, another opens, right? And I think there's parts of the economy that are continue to thrive where there's going to be opportunities. So one door that closed, right, is the retail industry as far as going to get clothes, right? We are Amazon and so forth.
Right.
But that's opened the door for better e-commerce because people want to get new things and selected things.
Right.
So one of the great resellers of the world or aggregators of the world was Etsy, a competitor of Amazon.
Sure.
They continue to increase. And what they do is aggregate small businesses to sell for them. They create the online channel. So if you can become a distributor, if you have clothes or things that you want to sell, use these aggregators to sell, you'll do incredibly well because people want to buy new and different things.
Right.
So there's a thing of, if you were traditional retail, move to e-commerce, right? Retail doesn't go away. In fact, people want to get dressed up again. I had to get dressed up to come out here, took my sweats off and finally put some jeans on.
Yeah,
Feels great.
absolutely.
Yeah, put some nice shoes on, took the house slippers off.
Right.
But here we are, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing that's happening in the economy is you're seeing that growth in retail. The other sector, which we talked about last time, which is even growing even more, is the delivery business, right? So people are going back, but they're still going to want to get things delivered. Things like DoorDash and so forth are expanding and say not only food, but you need a hammer from Home Depot.
Right.
You need a chair from Designs Within Reach, whatever it might be. So you're starting to see that growth in entrepreneurship. If you can be distribution and find a way to distribute product, you can be licensed through these companies to do it.
Right.
Even Amazon, 30% of their deliveries are not Amazon employees. These are contractors that they're working with independent distributors who put on the Amazon jersey and go out and do it for you.
Right.
So if you are able to leverage where the economy is going, you could still have very good. One of the biggest ones that are coming up is infrastructure. If you're an electrician, construction, they have a few bills right now that are both houses of Congress are supporting to rebuild bridges, to rebuild roads.
Right.
On my way here, I almost fell into a ditch and never came back in a pothole, right? There's huge potholes out there if you go out there now, and there's huge infrastructure issues. A lot of our bridges are beyond repair. So there's going to be a lot of money coming into the economy for those jobs. And guess who used to do it? All those people retired.
Yeah.
So all the welders, electricians, 50, 60, 70 years old, they're going to be looking to younger people to pick that up. So if you have a trade, if you're in distribution, if you have the ability to do retail and go online, you'll do very well in this new economy.
I just think that's powerful what you're sharing there. And I think, it's something that we have to talk about more, especially for some of the younger generation, because there's jobs that don't get the cool points, like different trades.
That's right.
And they actually are real careers, and you will make really good money and you'll be in high demand because there's a scarcity, as you're mentioning. And I love what you're saying about, retail and about delivery. So would you say, Cory, then that essentially the pandemic, we have to look for what did the pandemic train us on? What did it plant in our mind? What human behaviors did it cultivate?
That's right.
So it makes me now get used to getting something delivered to me. I'm not as afraid. The person who said I'll never buy online, they're willing to click the button now. Like there's a training that begin to happen without realizing it. Sometimes we talk about in marketing, trying to find your dream customer, your ideal customer, and you want to deal with someone who's already kind of close to the golf hole, like just a little tap, and they would buy from you instead of like, I gotta drive it all the way, convince you, tell you why it should, why it will work, why you can trust me. But there's a lot of people now that's a little closer now to just buying something online or letting you go pick up something for me. So essentially you're saying the pandemic, it kind of had a invisible training that was going on to all of our minds that now is creating a whole new opportunity for business.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the funny statistics that was out there was with the whole Zoom, right? And people wouldn't get in all that, but Zoom has crossed every demographic. Grandmas to 2-year-olds.
That's true.
Right? 2-year-olds were taking kindergarten class or 5-year-olds taking kindergarten class on Zoom.
Wow.
Grandmas had to see their children and grandchildren on Zoom. So everybody learned Zoom. So what happened was they were saying, well, what's happening on Zoom? Guess what industry popped up? Cosmetic surgery. Because I'm on Zoom. So they saw a boom, 50, 60% increase in cosmetic surgery. Because guess what I'm looking at all the time? Wow, look at the lines in my face.
Yeah.
Right?
People seeing themselves more.
Seeing themselves. So this has changed, as you said, the customer journey, the customer experience. We think about things differently now.
Right.
I didn't have to look at myself every day. You
Right.
looked at me and you
Yeah.
commented, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that I keep seeing my face
Yeah.
on Zoom as I'm chatting to everybody,
Right.
I'm ignoring you. I'm just looking at it like, good Lord, I've gotten old.
Because some people don't, we might look at each other, but we don't say anything,
don't say
right?
anything.
But
We
when you
just
look
go
at
with it.
yourself, it's a little bit well, speaking of, that's so interesting about cosmetic surgery. I hadn't heard that. And speaking of industries, just tell me a little bit about industries that you feel we should be looking at that, really may benefit from where we're going, and industries that may be in danger.
Yeah, so what's interesting, the economists are saying right now, and even in our business we're preparing for, so you're going to have this big bump. They're calling it the glow up. They glow up from the economy, glow up instead of blow up. And the thought is that everyone right now, between now and middle of summer, are going to start buying things and going out, because we're going out, right? We take off our mask, we're going to look different. So you're going to see kind of retail spike, you're going to see travel spike, Disneyland's back open, all that kind of stuff is going to spike. But then, summer comes and people go back to, after the end of summer, they go back to work or go back to school. So that spike goes down. So then they're saying, well, what happens after September? So the thought basically is that when you're seeing these shifts in the economy, is that the sectors that will continue to lag are business travel, right? So the lagging in business travel means events and all of that. If you're an event planner and so forth, you might have a few, but now companies realize I can make as much profit as you sitting on a Zoom versus sitting on an airplane across the world, right? So what takes the place of that? Well, how are you curating online events still? So the online event industry, I think, will continue to thrive. It may not be as big because people want to go mix, but having people who do video, having people who do camera, having people who can make the interactions better, that's an industry that will continue to thrive, because I still need to have it.
Right.
I talked about the distribution strategy, is that distribution is big. DoorDash is a great example of a company that wasn't about food, it's about distribution, right? The last mile. And so people have gotten used to that. That will continue to thrive, right? It may be a different class of people, it may be a different class of distribution, but I still need to get good from point A to point B.
Right.
The other industry which I mentioned, I think, is going to blossom. If you're in construction or doing construction anywhere, that is just going to continue to blow up. Here's what's interesting too. We thought during the pandemic a lot of the states would be in budget deficit. Everybody's flush with money. So Gavin Newsom here in California, surplus over double-digit billions, right? I forget it's $9 or $10 billion. There's money in these coffers. They're talking about building homes for the homeless.
Right.
That's construction. They're talking about fixing all the roads and bridges.
Right.
That's construction, electrician. They're talking about fixing the wireless, the 5G network that's been on hold. It's going to blossom. We all need Zoom now.
Right.
So if you're in telecom fixing 5G, that means all those wires that are in the poles under the ground, booming. Right, so I really see the ability to have trades in construction, infrastructure, the retail, like I said, online, the distribution, and even if you're into the online events, I think there's going to be a great boom. And of course, software is going to continue to grow. Anybody who's doing software is going to continue to see growth in that area as well.
Those are some really powerful insights. And if you're right, and these are the things that begin to really blossom and grow, what do you think the world might look like a year or so from now? I would say 10 years, but things are so crazy. A year is like 10 years. It's just so much happening. What do you feel if it really gets to this point where there's this conflict of wanting to be together again, but I'm kind of used to doing it without being together. We want to get back to the old times, but we're making a lot of profit this new way. Business are looking at margins and saying, I can charge the same thing, get the same amount of money, but what might this do to how things feel a year from now? Specifically for, when we think about professionals that are in the workplace that now have so much going on at home, and they're dealing with this whole new world. You got parenting, you got, technology, you have, a lot of different dynamics in how money is made. What do you think about how things may look as we go down into the future?
That's a really great question. And I think I was reading an article the other day, and we were actually having this discussion at our job with the leadership team. And the question was, if you start forcing people back to the office, will people come? It's the whole analogy.
And they have options now.
Yeah. So actually, there was a great article called it "The Great Resignation is coming online." And they believe that when companies start forcing people to come back, they're not going to come back because they have options.
Right.
So if I'm the guy that lived in San Francisco in a 100 square foot loft apartment,
Right.
and during the pandemic I said I'm going to move to Texas,
Right.
and get an acre of land,
That's right.
6-bedroom
Yeah,
house,
exactly.
pool. Am I coming back to San Francisco
Right.
and living at 10 by 10?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
So they're going to have options. And I think even Salesforce themselves, who made a huge investment into San Francisco with buying high rises and so forth, have said their people aren't coming back. So they're restacking their building to make it more social gathering places and say, come back into the office twice a week just to hang out.
Right.
Don't work from here.
Right.
Hang out from here. And they're subleasing the rest of their building. So they have like 42, 52 floors. They're subleasing half of that. And companies are no one's clamoring to go get it.
Wow.
Because people aren't coming back. So if you're an employer and you're forcing people to come back and they have skills, it ain't going to happen. So I think that's going to be a big tell sign that the great resignation coming on board, if you're forcing people to come back into the office who have gotten used to working at home,
Right.
who are taking care of what they need to, or even more so, been able to find affordable housing.
Yeah, yeah. Because on top of all of this, especially in California, the housing is I don't even believe it when I see some of the things going on. I mean, literally, you can't get a good sized home like less than $1 million or something now. I mean, and some other areas is even more crazy in California.
Yeah.
But to think that I can work where I want to and get my money from where I want to is the dream situation for a professional.
That's right.
And we're kind of moving into that time where it's like, where do I want to live? And then where do I want to get my money from?
That's right.
And so it seems like you're saying if employers don't figure out how to complement that direction, they're going to be at a disadvantage in getting the best resources in the marketplace.
That's right. That's right. And it's been already, this is not even theory. Wages have increased, they said, about 10% already since the pandemic. That means a tight labor market. As an employer, to entice you, I can't just give you the regular earnings.
Right.
And I'm talking about at base level. This is happening at In-N-Out. This is happening at McDonald's. This is happening at Target. This is happening at Salesforce.
Right.
Everybody's seeing that with the tight labor market, people got options. So
Yeah.
they're coming to the boss now saying, I got options.
Right.
So what do you want to do? How are you going to encourage me
Yeah.
to work for you? Because just down the street, they told me I could work from my home.
Yeah.
And I could live in Boise, Idaho, and pay a mortgage for $500 a month.
Right.
And have an acre of land. Right.
Right.
So this is going to be the change of the dynamic that I think employees now will have the advantage
Right.
and be able to negotiate better. But the problem is, and this is the underlying economic issue, that wage pressure is causing inflation. So economically, that means every dollar that I had is worth $1 less. So I got paid more.
Right.
But guess what? I'm paying more
That's good.
for
That's good.
gas,
Yeah.
milk, groceries, and we've already seen the spike in prices.
Right.
So go to the pump right now,
Yeah.
$4 everywhere.
Right.
Right. So we're starting to see inflation increase as well, which then causes another problem.
Right, and what might be the community dynamic of having people from other areas going into these areas that weren't ready to get this surplus of people coming into their towns and their areas. They're there because of the space and less congestion and
Yes.
I don't want to be in the busyness of California or New York and some of these big cities, Atlanta, and now what might this mean if people start all migrating to the more quiet, small, quaint, and then those aren't small, quiet, quaint anymore?
That's right.
That's very possible.
It was happening now. Tahoe is putting up restrictions about people coming in. People are coming in from the Bay Area and changing Tahoe. I read a report, neighbors were saying, they used to be able to run with their dogs on leaches. Now all the people from San Francisco are coming in and saying, you have to leash your dog, right? So it's changing the dynamics of the town.
Yeah.
Austin in Texas. Austin was a big, kind of tech area, but it was open. Now they've seen about 20, 30% people coming into their cities, changing the dynamic of the city. The culture of the
Right.
city has
Even the
shifted.
culture. That's
Right.
good,
I'm
yeah.
bringing California and Texas.
That's right.
Those two don't blend as well.
That's right.
Oil and water.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a dynamic shift incredibly in these areas.
And on top of that, you have all the political unrest and the social unrest mixed with this kind of dynamic of moving parts. And so I can only imagine, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. So let me ask you this, because I want to, just bringing it down to the personal level for those that are watching. You've touched on a lot of different things. We talked about different industries. We talked about different business opportunities. But bringing it down to just the professional for a minute, maybe even the entrepreneur too, what are some skills that we feel are going to start to just really explode if you have them? So it definitely is an employee type of market where you can kind of choose your options more if you have skills.
Right.
But what skills do you think might be very essential to kind of write your own ticket?
Well, I think one of the great things that you do in your program is teaching things about authenticity. There's soft skills, right? So
Yeah.
let's go soft and hard.
Yeah.
Soft, I think, the most important right now. You have to be flexible because, as we say, the technology today is not going to be the technology tomorrow. So the skills that you even learn today, hard skills, are not what's going to be needed tomorrow. Right? The skill of Zoom, where was that 10 years ago?
Yeah.
The skill of cloud computing, where was that 10 years ago? So skills and hard skills will change, but it's the soft skills like you always talk about in your programs as far as authenticity, knowing who you are, really understand your customer need.
Right.
Those are critical. They sound fluffy to people, but if you don't know that and are able to hone that in, you are not going to survive in this industry. If I keep thinking my customer is going to come through that door,
Yeah.
I will end up closing my shop, right? I know they're going to come. I have some great, look at my website and all that, but I can't transact on your website. I can't buy stuff on your website. You're not curating your clothes. You're not tailoring it to my content. So for entrepreneurs to really know who they are and what their customers are and what they're bringing to the customers, I think is critical. And I know it sounds fluffy, but I can give you example on example of companies that did not get that and failed, right? I think from a hard skill standpoint, I think it's so important right now, and we're seeing this as I'm hiring for people, is I'm looking for people who have deep knowledge in certain areas, right? You need specialists now in certain areas. You always want the generalist to kind of get you going through it, but now people are asking questions. Do you know this specifically? Do you understand this industry? Do you understand this software? So I think it's really important. At some point, you have to be able to be a domain expert, as we say, in a certain field. That makes you valuable. So if you even look at the listings now, you'll see very long titles. And why are they looking for long titles? Because they're trying to go deeper into those verticals. So I'll give you an example. What I do right now, financial services strategy, but my company wanted to make sure they knew exactly what a bank does, exactly what a wealth management does, exactly what an insurer does. And so my team is specialist in those areas. So when we go in to talk to those companies, we can talk to them germanely about their business. We don't go around saying, well, if you knew your checking account is different from it, like you have to know. How does a checking account work? What core systems does it work with? How does it? So I think the next level of people is really getting domain expertise and honing in on that domain expertise, really getting deep into that field. You were operations specialist. What made you valuable was your deep knowledge of lean and your deep knowledge of continuous improvement. Everybody else is talking about, well, we got to improve somehow. And they don't want you. They want that person who knows deep germane knowledge because you're adding value that they don't have. So I think that's the level that I would start to encourage people to really do is whatever you know and know well, try to know it even better.
Go deeper.
And go deeper. Don't go wider, go deeper. And that's what makes you unique. Those are what we call the unicorns. With wings. They're unicorns on Pegasus riding on rainbows. And those are the ones that demand the higher salary because no one can find them. I'm still looking for them,
So that's what makes you unique. So I really love what you're saying. So I'm going to throw a two-part question because I know we're almost out of time here, but this is so good. I want to tell everybody what your company does and a little bit about what you do because we didn't, we just jumped in because, we friends. I just like, let's jump in, let's get into it. But tell everybody a little about what you do. And also, you mentioned how you were doing some hiring and then you just talked about, being able to go deeper. Tell me what you feel the battle of education versus practical experience. Where do you feel we're going today? Because we went and got our degrees and did all the things and get the master's degrees and doing all these things. And there's a lot of licenses and things you went after and things that you need. But where we're going, not to take away from education, but what do you think? So after you talk about the company, tell me how you really feel on this because I know today sometime if you find someone who knows how to do it, it's almost more important than
Where they
your
went to school.
resume. Like, it's
Absolutely.
like, can you do this?
Yeah, exactly.
And can you go deep and get this done? Like, we will hire you because you can do it. But tell me a little bit. I know I threw a two-part at you.
You threw a
but
two-parter at
talk
me.
about your company, what you're doing. Tell me about experience versus education.
You just reminded me of the British Bulldogs, that tag team we used to watch in World Wrestling, right?
You
just
dating us
just
now.
got two on me.
Yeah,
you got two
you
on me.
dating us
One
now.
body slamming, one doing a suplex.
Yeah.
So let me try to answer the question though. But no, I think so TalkDesk, where I work, we're a cloud-based contact center solution. So it's about customer experience, right? So a lot of these companies before had traditional systems when you call the customer center or where you have people you want to complain to. It's going through old technology. So this is cloud-based, and the idea is that with cloud-based, you can do more, right? So one of our things is working with financial institutions and helping them really develop a better banking experience. So when you go online with your bank, and then when you call, that connected experience, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's the whole idea and the premise, and we're having a lot of great success with that because people are realizing that post-pandemic, I'm not going back to a branch.
Right.
What is a branch? Like you ask a younger person, what is that thing right there? That's called a bank branch.
Right.
And that ATM thing is where you get, but I do cash money on my Cash App.
Cash
and
App.
Venmo. What do I need that for?
Yeah.
So that has changed, right? And so the ability to bring customer service online, digital, have bots and all that stuff makes a big difference. And so we're very focused on delivering customer value that way. That being said, I think you're absolutely right. As we're hiring, it's almost like education is good. It's a nice baseline, but it's about, again, what you know, right? This whole thing that's, emerged with Bitcoin and blockchain and all that kind of stuff. If you know some of that stuff, that's all that matters. Nobody's even looking at what college you went to.
Right.
If you can articulate how distributed networks work and how these digital currencies go across these distributed networks, be a private or public chain, you're hired because I need to address that with the customer.
Right. I need this problem solved.
I need a problem solved.
Right.
And because, remember, like I said, because the pace of technology is moving so fast, because the world is moving so fast, you need people who can understand domain expertise very well and get a problem solved.
Right.
I don't need anybody sitting around saying, well, Michael Porter's 5 theories were this. If I'm in this box, that's not getting it solved right now. This customer needs a need right now, right?
Right.
So I think education will always be important. It's a good baseline. It shows your discipline and so forth.
Right.
However, right now it's about germane skills and can you add value to that company immediately. We call it TTV, time to value. Time to value is important because there's this whole thing with expertise and time, and there's a nice chart. But the whole thing is you start off like, I got this hire, they're going to be great, and then you hit this point of disillusionment because they don't know anything.
Right.
Then you go through this deep trial, I shouldn't have hired them, and you're trying to learn everything.
Yeah.
And then finally you build them up, and they're ready to go.
Right.
But that's 3-4 years.
Yeah.
You needed them at year 1, month 2.
Right.
So you're hiring now, or I'm hiring now, for people who know the task at hand and can deliver immediately.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to have that domain expertise.
Very, very well said. And I want to just say to everybody out there, and I'm going to give you the final word, anything you want to say to everyone before we close out. But it's so important what you're saying right now because, and I want everyone to know out there, we're not taken away from education. We got our degrees and everything, and we went through all kinds of education and learning every day. But you're right that education really is showing discipline because you learn later that even all that you learn in school, you still got to get in the real world and learn what's really going on.
That's right.
But it shows you have the discipline. It shows you know how to learn.
That's right.
And so that you can use those skills. And I think, too, I really want everyone to get this out of what Cory just went over is that everyone out there, as you have opportunities like tonight and any other time to learn from whoever, or that friend or that family member that you can go talk to them about what they do. If you can get around anyone who is an expert at whatever and really learn it and go get your hands wet and dirty in there where you say, I really can do this and solve a real problem, that is gold today because people are really looking for that. And so I really appreciate what you shared about that. So I want to see, is there any final thought you want to give to all the URCL community out there that wants to achieve more? They're trying to survive this workplace, and now they have to have the courage to take the next step with whatever they're trying to do. Anything you want to tell them out there?
Well, like I said, I think one of the things that if you're a member of URCL, you're hearing this every day and you're getting the education, take advantage of it. Because what you're delivering week to week is invaluable, right? And I think people they don't understand that they are learning along the way, they're sharing. And one of the unique things that happens in this great market that you have is the networking effect. Networking is so powerful, and that's one thing we didn't have a chance to hit, but that's one thing I think you get from schools and so forth is you're able to network.
That's true. That's
and
good.
I think that's the other piece of this is that if you can network within the UR CEO community, leverage each other's strengths, leverage your weakness. One of the great things we do as a company is we call it partnerships. So we call it the peacock effect. Peacock is a small thing, but if I say I'm connected to all these people, I look huge. Right. So I'm connected to this big company, I'm connected to that big company. And then you come in looking like you are the biggest thing in the world.
Right.
Same thing with URCO. I'm a small company, but if I can connect with other people, look at the value I could bring. You do retail, you do e-commerce, you do distribution. We link together.
Right.
I just solved 3 of those things that I just talked about earlier about moving into the new economy.
Right.
So I think the networking effect that you're getting and have access to should be able to explode in this economy and what you're providing on URC platform. The last thing I'll say, which I think is so important to the viewers out there, is really think about this is one of the biggest opportunity shifts ever. What we're seeing right now is almost equivalent to what happened with the internet 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? You thought about, we live in the internet now.
Right.
But think about when we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have online pages. We
Right.
were going through directories and phone books and calling on different, now it's shifted. Now we're in a point where we're coming post-pandemic. The world has almost given us everyone an equal platform to come out of this together on a global stage, right? There's the inequalities I talked about,
right?
But think about all the opportunities that are here as well. There's funding from the government that's been given. There's things like forbearance that's been done. There's people coming out together. There's a whole new group and demographic that has a chance to change the world because the world as it comes out, we're coming out together. This is the greatest time for any entrepreneur right now. They said right now, VCs, venture capitalists, have so much cash on hand. They're waiting for anybody with a good idea. To come out with it. So if you just say, I got an idea about cleaning windows on cars, $5 million, go figure it out, right? Now you got to pay it back. So make sure you be able to do it. But the idea is that don't be afraid, be courageous, take everything that you're giving to people and go out there and make a difference.
Oh, awesome. Those were outstanding closing remarks. And I want you to know, when you said back to the phone books and stuff, you just kind of told on us both that now we talking like we used to talk about other people.
Oh, no, I was Googling that. I didn't know about that.
Exactly, right. Well, I want to thank you so much, and I just want to thank you so much for everything you gave on this show. It's always an honor to have you. I'm looking forward to when we could do this again and maybe going from another angle and maybe let's seeing if some of these prophecies you put out there are going to come to pass. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And so everyone out there, I know you enjoyed this show. I know this was just so thought-provoking. There's none of us that could escape thinking about something differently after hearing this wonderful conversation with Cory Hanes. I want to thank him so much for all that he gave, all that he delivered, and everything that he's doing out there in the professional world. And listen, as he said, we all have to take this seriously, being the seal of our own life. It's not about what you get access to, it's what you do with it. What are you going to do with it? Again, knowledge is not power, but applied knowledge is power. So make sure you get out there, take what you've gained here tonight, think about your life, think about your career, think about your business, think about what you want to do, and take action. Figure out a way to take action. And what you don't have, network to get it. Because if you want it, you'll find a way to get it. And so I'm going to now tell you about our next show. And again, this is a special one. Let me show you here. Mystery guest again. That's what we're going to do, mystery guest again. So you're going to have to come to find out what other powerful discussion are we going to have like we had tonight. So from now until then, get out there and let the whole world know that you are a CEO.